Tottenham have agreed a deal to appoint Paulo Fonseca as Manchester City make their first bid for Harry Kane. This is the news coming from the reliable sources around England, Italy and Europe, as Tottenham's pursuit of a manager over 50 days after sacking Jose Mourinho looks to be coming to an end. We're going to be talking about what this means, the terms of this contract that we already know, and how Paulo Fonseca will do in terms of trying to keep Harry Kane at the club as Man City, his preferred destination, make their first move. Before we do get into that, if you are new to the channel, please make sure to hit that subscribe button for continued coverage of our pursuit of a manager right up until the appointment, and as well the Tottenham Hotspur Transfer Talk series, which will be coming back very, very shortly as we start to see our targets in action at Euro 2020. Make sure to hit that like button as well if you are happy that this pursuit may be coming to an end. You may not be too happy about the man that it is going to be at the helm, but it's a manager nonetheless, and we're going to talk again about more of what that means. And first of all, we are going to take the latest update from Fabrizio Romano on this deal, and then we'll dive into the next couple of reports that we're hearing. And Romano, the latest thing that he has said is he tweeted last night and said that Tottenham and Paulo Fonseca are finalising a deal to see him become the new Spurs manager. We're going to get the exact quote from him right now, and it's a lot of what he was talking about was backroom staff, which is turning out to be a lot more important to Spurs than it has really been in any managerial negotiation that I've heard before, being one of the key reasons that Antonio Conte will not be the new Spurs manager. Updates from Duncan Castles as well on that in the latest hour. So Fabrizio Romano said, Paulo Fonseca now in talks on last details with Tottenham. He's set to change his whole staff after many injuries last season at Roma. Staff members to be discussed with Spurs board soon. Fabio Paratici will be announced as new Tottenham Director of Football in the next few days. So we are expecting an announcement on Fabio Paratici, and then shortly after that, one for Paulo Fonseca as well. Killian Kenny, good to see you in the live chat. Appreciate you tuning in as always. We got Brian Daigle was in here early. Said good morning everyone, how are we all? Looking forward to seeing the latest developments. How are you, Matt? I'm very good, Brian. Good to see you in the live chat as always. We got Caleb, kudos. Mark Woodland, channel member, good to see you in here. Yeah, thank God it is the weekend. Lockman, Arkan, Tom as well. Justin, good to see all of you. Jamie, please do not spam the chat. And look, that's the latest on Fabrizio Romano. And in the terms of the backroom staff that he's mentioned there, Duncan Castles has updated us 44 minutes ago, and he said he understands that Ryan Mason and Ledley King will remain on Tottenham's coaching staff as assistants to Paulo Fonseca. Is that one of the reasons? Well, it more than likely is. We do almost know that it is one of the reasons why Antonio Conte will not be the new Spurs manager. There are other reasons in there that, of course, we do need to touch on. But Ryan Mason and Ledley King to remain as assistants on Paulo Fonseca's coaching staff, according to Duncan Castles, who has also said Fonseca's salary at Spurs is believed to be €2.5 million a year. The negotiations with Conte, the discrepancy between what Conte wanted and what we were offering was more than that. The discrepancy itself was €3 million. He wanted between 15 and 20, and we're offering just €2.5 million to Fonseca, and he has accepted this. It's what he wants. Wayne coming in with the £2 super chat says, I'm still waiting for Levy to mess this up. Look, I think, as you can see beside me, with the nearly all betting markets on this suspended, excluding Boyle Sports, who are coming in with some very, very short odds for this one. I don't think Levy will mess it up just yet, but look, with him there is always a potential for that. But Wayne, thank you very much for the super chat. Anyone else, if you do want to guarantee your comments are read out and discussed, and if you want to support the channel as well, please do get in a super chat, and I'll make sure to get to that as soon as I possibly can. Jamie, please do not spam the chat. It ruins the chat for everybody else. Please, we've agreed a deal, but it's not confirmed yet. Please do not spam the chat. And look, that is the latest on Fabrizio Romano. And look, the thing with Romano is he's never going to say it's a done deal until it's 100% done. And the confirmation is very, very short because of the kind of how famous his "here we go" is and how reliable he is. He doesn't want to kind of jump the gun and things like that. But a lot of other reporters have done that, and they're reports that we have agreed a deal in principle with Paulo Fonseca. There are other that says we've reached a verbal agreement, but the general consensus around, I'd say that the tier 1.5, tier 2 journalists right now is that this is done and he's going to be the new manager of Spurs. It was the Telegraph who said Tottenham have an agreement in principle with Paulo Fonseca. He is expected to travel to London over the weekend to finalise that deal. And other reports were coming from, I've just lost it here. I think it was The Athletic who said that it's imminent. Or James Horncastle, yeah, from The Athletic, said Tottenham and Paulo Fonseca have a verbal agreement. So this one is as good as done. Athletic also saying we're closing in on the appointment of Paulo Fonseca. This one looks like it is only a matter of time. As you can see, all those odds beside me suspended. And look, this is what we have to look forward to now. Spurs' new manager is going to be Paulo Fonseca. It is 99.99999% confirmed that he will be the man. Caleb saying, when will Paratici be announced? It could be today, it could be tomorrow. It is expected to be announced over the weekend, opening up the ability then for Spurs to announce Paulo Fonseca in the early days next week. Now, like I said, we've seen a lot of we saw a few of Fonseca's players in action for Italy last night. We're going to see more as the Euros go on. And one player that I was really impressed with last night was Leonardo Spinazzola, the left back at Roma, who was a key part of the way they played. If anyone who watched my tactical brief on Paulo Fonseca the other day will know that. And he's one player that we are apparently looking to bring with Paulo Fonseca if he is to be given the choice on which players he wants to bring with him. I thought it was particularly interesting that we saw Spinazzola on the left-hand side for Italy up against Zeki Celik on the right-hand side for Turkey, another player that we are looking at. And look, if you ask Spurs fans which one they'd want in Spinazzola and Celik, I think a lot of them would say Zeki Celik, but it was definitely Spinazzola who won that battle last night, with getting the man of the match award as well in Italy's 3-0 win against Turkey. So the Euro is going to be a very exciting time to keep an eye on potential targets for Spurs, especially with Italy, who started in really good form last night. A few players, Locatelli as well, I thought was very, very impressive, and Turkey's certainly underperforming. But we now look at which players Fonseca could bring with him to Spurs, which Roma players he would want to bring in. There's a few that were mentioned: Paulo Fonseca, or Leonardo Spinazzola being one, Lorenzo Pellegrini another one, the attacking midfielder who could also play out wide, and Gianluca Mancini, the centre back for them there. But you then have to look at the fact that if we do want to bring players in from Roma, who's going to have the say on which players get to leave Roma, and that could very well be Jose Mourinho. And I can't imagine you going into negotiations with him right now would be a particularly good idea for Spurs, but we'll have to wait and see how that one plays out. Let me know in the live chat your thoughts on this, that Spurs have all but agreed, or according to a lot of sources, have agreed a deal with Paulo Fonseca. It's a 3-year contract up until 2024, or it's either a direct 3-year or 2 years with the option for a 3rd year, which will be the same contract that Fabio Paratici has signed up until 2024. So these men very, very much coming in hand to work together at Spurs. And look, he wasn't our first choice. He wasn't our second choice. If the Daily Mail are to be believed, if the Daily Mail are to be believed, well, he was our 6th choice, which I think is way too precise from an outlet like that to be fully believed. But you know, if this is Paratici wanted to bring in after the failure of bringing in Antonio Conte, well, we have to trust that Paratici knows what he's doing, because as much as people in here might watch Italian football or might follow Italian football and things like that, well, that's all fair. But Fabio Paratici, who's worked in it, it's been his life for the last 11 years, and he's done that very successfully in delivering 10 Scudettos to Juventus in that time. He knows a lot more about this. He will have come up against Paulo Fonseca 4 times in the last 2 years, and Roma had a very, very bad record against the big teams under Fonseca. They won 4 games out of 24. However, they were Juventus's bogey team. I'm not exactly sure how many, but at least 2 of those victories came against Juventus. So Paratici knows just how good Fonseca can be. Pep Guardiola is quoted as saying some very, very positive things about Fonseca's Shakhtar Donetsk side. I'll get to that in a second, Josh. After, we've all seen the video and the picture of Paulo Fonseca coming out in the Mask of Zorro after a certain game. Well, that was after Shakhtar Donetsk ended Manchester City's run of 26 consecutive victories. And Pep Guardiola massively praised his side there. Now, Fonseca has changed his tactics since then. Again, if you watch that stream on Thursday, if you haven't, I'd recommend you go back and get a full tactical debrief on Fonseca. He's gone from a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3 more into a 3-4-3, which I think is really becoming a staple of Italian football with the way they played last night, and Antonio Conte as well. But Fonseca is getting a lot of praise from a lot of people, and Paratici needs to be trusted with this decision. And look, it can be quite difficult to trust this man who hasn't yet come in, and the first big decision that he's made is to get this manager that we don't really know. Excuse me, I think I have a frog in my throat. Steve, good to see you in here, says, if you want to guarantee your question gets answered or comment gets seen by Matt, put your question or comment in a super chat. Your support is greatly appreciated, and that it absolutely is. And Steve, your modding in the chat is greatly appreciated as well. As with Brian Daigle, always good to see you here. Bradley Coombs, channel member, says, we need to give Fonseca a chance. I know Spurs fans are underwhelmed but with disappointment, but just look what Poch done for us, and he wasn't a big name at the time. And that's exactly it. It's not always the high profile appointments that are the only ones that work. Jose Mourinho was a high profile appointment, one that a lot of people were excited about, and look how that turned out. I said it again the other night. It's typically the appointments where Spurs don't get our first man are the ones that work out the best for us, which is really crazy to think about. Because Jacques Santini was appointed 10, 15 years ago, didn't quite work out with him. He quit after 3 months. Martin Jol came in from being his assistant to being the first man, and he was a great manager for Spurs. Juan de Ramos wasn't one the club particularly wanted. He won us a cup, and Pochettino was our second choice after Louis van Gaal in 2014, and he was the best manager we've had in decades. Brad Matthews with the £5 super chat, thank you very much for that support. Says, looks like we'll be getting attacking football. Support the team, support the manager, support the director of football. You can still be ENIC out, and that's so true. At the Spurs web, good to see you in here as well. Thank Forza Fonseca. I'm good, enjoying this roller coaster potentially coming to an end. But Brad, look, that's exactly it. Supporting the manager, supporting the players, supporting the team, and all that is very, very different to supporting ENIC. It's very different. We are Tottenham fans. The people who are owning the club are just the custodians for now. They weren't here 20 years ago. They might not be here in 10 years. We're not supporting them. We are supporting the team. And I didn't agree with the appointment of Jose Mourinho. When it happened, I saw it kind of panning out the way it did. And look, throughout the middle of that, I did completely have full confidence in Jose because of how it looked as though it looked like things were going. But at the beginning, it went exactly how I expected it would back then. But I still backed the manager because it's not his fault we don't like ENIC. It's not his fault ENIC make bad decisions. He's taken on this job, and what that manager wants, what Paulo Fonseca wants for Spurs in the coming years, is exactly what we want for Spurs. Success with the best players and playing the best football. So why should we be against him just because we think ENIC could have made a better decision? Fonseca has had no bearing whatsoever on what happened with Conte, what happened with Poch, what happened with Jose in the last appointment. He simply is accepting this offer to become the new manager of Spurs. He wants to be successful with his team. We want him to be successful. Well, rather, we want a manager to be successful. Why not back him? Why not back Paratici? He wants to bring the best players in for this club, the players who want to win. That's what we need to do. We need to support the club, not ENIC. Look, I think Josh King is going to get scared if we don't get to this news. But Duncan Castles in the last 24 or so hours have said that Manchester City have already made a bid for Harry Kane. We know nothing about the size of that bid, whether it's purely cash or it's a player plus cash deal. We don't know Spurs where they stand on this at the moment. We don't know how Paulo Fonseca feels about this. There's so many questions that do still need to be answered. But Duncan Castles has said that Manchester City have already made a bid for Harry Kane. Now, he said it on his podcast, so I can't read anything out at the moment. But Man City have made that offer for Kane. And where this is going to go, I think every Spurs fan is in the same bracket. It's terrifying. And there's definitely the potential for Spurs to accept a bid if a big enough one comes in. And if Spurs accept that bid, well, Harry Kane isn't going to turn down and move to Manchester City. It's who he wants to go to. He almost said it. He said as much in that interview with Gary Neville when he said he wanted to play with Kevin De Bruyne. It's scary times for Spurs because if we sell Kane, let's say we get 150 million, how much of that actually goes back into the squad? How much of the players around will want to stay if Harry Kane is gone? Where will Spurs go? How do we replace him? So many questions unanswered. I personally still think Harry Kane will be at Spurs on the 1st of September. I think this entire situation is currently out of his control. It's in the hands of Daniel Levy. Kane signed that 6-year contract 3 years ago. He has 3 years left. In hindsight, it was a terrible decision from him, and it's entirely his own fault that he's in this place. But you do have to remember how much he was promised by this club. And Daniel Levy saying, we're going to build this team around you. We're going to build with Pot. We're going to be. He promised the world to Harry Kane and completely failed in delivering that to him. So, of course, we feel bad for Harry Kane. And I said it before it was extremely evident that Kane wanted to leave, that for me personally, if Harry Kane wanted to leave, I want Harry Kane to leave because of how much he's given to this club. The last thing we want is for him to be held hostage and to develop any disdain or any ill feeling towards this club, because we love him as much as any player that has played, any player that has worn this jersey in the 140-year history of Spurs. The thought of him hating the club is really bad, and it's honestly kind of heartbreaking, but I wouldn't begrudge him if he wanted that move away, if he got that move away, and I don't think many Spurs fans would. Mark says, I'm prepared to give Fonseca a chance. Dara says, to be honest, I don't know what to think. My only question is if Fonseca is good. Why was he never brought in to manage Juve? They brought in Pirlo and Sarri, but not Fonseca. Wayne Bonner with another £5 super chat. Wayne, thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. Says, at least if Fonseca signs, he won't have Champions League or Europa League as a distraction. He can focus on the league and the team and play young or fringe players in the Europa Conference League. Yeah, that is, in a roundabout way, when you miss out on Europe, there is some positives to that. And you look at Antonio Conte's first season at Chelsea, finished top of the league with 93 points. They didn't have any European football to distract them. They'd finished 9th or 10th the season before and simply had that league and only the league to play for. And it worked out very well for them. Of course, they were one of the fittest teams right through to the end of the season. Spurs have something similar. And look, given it's the first year of the Europa Conference League, I don't think anybody really knows how we're going to approach it. There is the chance of, if we do play strong teams and if we do actually go for it, well, we could win a European trophy. It's not exactly the European trophy that we want. It's not exactly the European trophy that we think is the best or is prestigious or is any way positive for the club, but it's a trophy nonetheless. And winning the inaugural competition could be special in itself and all that. But I would personally, at the moment, like to see the young players and the fringe players given a chance there and properly go for the league and try get back into the Champions League. It's going to be very difficult, and I don't necessarily think it's possible for us to get top 4 next season. That could change depending how the transfer window goes, but I do jump back and forth on wanting to go all out for the Europa Conference League, and then, well, actually we could just change that, and it's a difficult decision. I'd be interested to get your feelings in the live chat there. Do you think it's the best way for Spurs to go if we went all out to win that Conference League, or do you think we should kind of properly put things towards the league and play those fringe players and stuff in the Conference League? A comment there. John says, I'm betting Matt Hayes hits 10k subs by the time next season kicks off. Well, look, I'm hoping to hit 10k. That is the goal before the season starts. If you have not yet hit the subscribe button down below, please do, to get more content like this, including the Tottenham Hotspur Transfer Talk series coming back in full flight when Fonseca is announced. We've so much to talk about already. I hadn't planned on talking anything transfers, but when it's a City bid for Kane, I feel like we had to, but there'll be so much more of that as the transfer window rolls on. So please do hit that subscribe button. Brian says 9 likes away from that 100. Let's round it up. Come on. Make sure to hit that like button as well if you are enjoying the stream. We're on 96 likes now. Please get that up to 100. David the Irish Hotspur, good to see you in here, says, I'm not convinced by Fonseca, but I have to give him a chance. And that's exactly it. You can know everything, you can know nothing about this manager. But at the end of the day, he's the manager of Spurs. And like I said, you got to support him. If you're supporting the club, you want the people who want the best for Spurs, well, you got to support them. And he wants this club to win. He wouldn't be taking this job if he didn't want to win stuff with the team. And for me, that is the be all and end all. Cody Mack, good to see you in the live chat as well, says, I know we want to win and win now, but if this is the beginning of the painful rebuild Poch called for, then I'm on board. At least we have a mandate and direction. Let's see what Paratici can do. And that is so true, Cody. That, again, as you always do, hitting the nail on the head there. The main criticism and the most concerning criticism that I had of Spurs as we kind of got towards the end of last season, even when we were still talking about, is it going to be Potter, is it going to be Parker, is it going to be Ten Hag? There was no direction for this club. We did not know where the club wanted to go, and we didn't know how they wanted to get there. But now they're starting to make these difficult decisions. Scott, thank you for subscribing. They're starting to make these decisions with Daniel Levy. Again, all the reports saying he's fully ready to relieve control of footballing decisions within the club. Alistair Gold saying there's some within the club that really don't think that is going to happen. But we now know where they're going and how they want to do it. By bringing in this director of football, by bringing in a manager who, again, while he's relatively unknown in the English football sphere, he plays attacking football. And again, please go and watch my tactical debrief that I did on Thursday if you want to know all about Fonseca's style of play. But it's that style of attacking football that we were told we wanted, that we are now going for it. We kind of veered off that course a little bit in trying to get Antonio Conte, but we're right back on it now with Fonseca. And again, a really positive thing that I'm saying, Rob, thank you for subscribing. This may not be the best appointment for Spurs fans. It may not be the appointment that we want, but what this appointment tells me is Daniel Levy has given control of this to Fabio Paratici. I do not for a second believe that Daniel Levy even knew who Paulo Fonseca was. Never mind wanted him to be the new manager of Spurs. Whereas Paratici, it makes perfect sense that this is a man Paratici would look at and would want to bring in. That is a positive sign for me. The Spurs web says, thoughts on Spinazzola last night. Matt, Fonseca was a big part of his development. And look, I was so impressed with Spinazzola. And I said it earlier in the stream, it was interesting to see two fullbacks that we're looking for in Spinazzola up against Zeki Celik, and seeing which one really came out on the top there. And you would have to say it was Spinazzola. Martin becoming a member. Martin, thank you so much for that. Really appreciate all the support in the channel from Manchester United fan as well. It is really, really appreciated. Ross, thank you for subscribing as well. But yeah, that Spinazzola up against Zeki Celik, I thought was a very entertaining battle. Spinazzola definitely came out on top. Now, that's not to say I don't want Zeki Celik at Spurs. I'd still take him. He had an incredible season at Lille last year. But Spinazzola was without a doubt the best player in the pitch. Italy, a lot of their build up came down that left hand side. I thought Florenzi in the first half was quite good as well. I don't know why he was taken off for Di Lorenzo. I think a lot of their struggles down the right hand side came from Berardi, who just was awful on the night. But yeah, Spinazzola, I was really, really impressed with him. I thought Locatelli was good as well. I know not really a mainstay in that team, but I thought he did quite well. So look, again, Spinazzola, the best player in the pitch, and look, do we need him? Do we want to bring him in? We're hearing he is one of the targets that Spurs would have to bring players with Fonseca, the other two being Lorenzo Pellegrini and Gianluca Mancini. But we have Sergio Reguilon, who had a very poor end to last season. But like I said during the week, there's no coincidence between us playing positive, attacking, good football in the early stage of the season, and Reguilon was unbelievable. And then as soon as we kind of regressed into that defensive football and that more pragmatic style, Reguilon's form dipped with it almost hand in hand. So I would give Reguilon another chance. I wouldn't say no to bring in Spinazzola, because if we're getting rid of Ben Davis, bringing in another left back, there's nothing wrong with having that competition there. But I don't think left back is really the main priority that we're having. Speaking of priorities in the transfer market, Alistair Gold said the first position Spurs will look to improve, the first position we will look to strengthen is centre back. So any money that goes, we look to bring in a centre back. Of course, I haven't even mentioned on the channel yet that Juan Foyth has gone to Villarreal. They made his loan deal permanent for £13 million. So Juan Foyth is gone. Danny Rose potentially going to Watford. Of course, already left the club. The money's starting to come in already. Fabio Paratici has told some players at the club that they will be leaving, and he's told their agents to find clubs for them. We don't know who those players are. We can guess. We can have very educated guesses in terms of Ben Davis, Harry Winks, Eric Lamela. I think will be on the move. Although, could that now be shifting with this kind of Italian link up coming in with Paratici and where Fonseca has been in the last 2 years? Of course, at Roma as well, where Lamela came from. Could he have another chance at Spurs? Who knows? But it's going to be a very, very exciting transfer window coming up. Cody says, excellent work as always. Sterling coverage of the manager search/circus. Reeb, it's over despite being underwhelmed. Cody, thanks so much for the kind words as always. Cody, your support to this channel is unrivaled. Well, it's unrivaled by a lot, but like Brian Tagle and the Irish Hotspur, of course, always coming in with the comments like that as well. So thank you to the three of you for the support. And look, that's it. We're relieved it's over. I said a couple of weeks ago, I think when the Pochettino thing kind of fell through, it was like, I'd take Scott Parker. I just want this to end. I'm glad we didn't get him, and I'm glad that isn't how that went. But while it may not be the best appointment we were all hoping for, it's an appointment nonetheless, and it allows us to really push on and really actually focus on preparing for next season. Because with the window open now for 3 days, we're already behind other teams. Villa have already signed Emi Buendia. Liverpool have already signed Ibrahima Konate. Teams are making signings. Spurs need to be one of those teams now. Wayne with the £5 says, I'm surprised about Foyth. Thought we'd have kept him. I think there's a comment there a second ago. Steve as well saying, are you happy with the Foyth situation? Last season, when he went on loan with the option to buy, I said I think we could regret that. I didn't imagine that we would, but it was always a possibility. And now we're in a situation where I think we regret that. And again, hindsight is a wonderful thing. I think if Spurs, if there wasn't a deal in that contract or a deal in that a clause in that deal, and Spurs had now been given the option, Villarreal had to make a £30 million bid. I don't think Spurs accept that because of how well he did last season. Of course, the most recent Spurs player to win a trophy. We can make that joke all we want, and the Spurs will be able to tell you all the stats in that one. But I'd rather he stayed. I was a fan of Foyth. He had a difficult start. He conceded 2 penalties in his first game against Wolves when he won 3-2 at Molineux. It wasn't the best time for him at Spurs, but he has potential. And I think Mauricio Pochettino leaving the club was detrimental to his time, because we know how much Poch liked bringing in those Argentinian players. I think Gazaniga also a victim of Pochettino's departure. But I'm upset to see Foyth go, but it's money that we can invest in other areas where perhaps we needed a bit more. He wasn't really going to be a centre-back. I think his place is out in right-back. But hopefully we can get a centre-back in. People asking about Joachim Andersen. He's a target. I think that deal will get done this summer. I think he'll be a Spurs player next season. But again, only time will tell on all these deals. If you do want to keep right up to date with every single piece of Spurs transfer news this summer, please hit that subscribe button down below. It's completely free to do. Hit that notification bell as well so you get notified whenever we upload or go live. You will not regret it. Again, on the road to 10k before the season starts. We'll check what numbers we're on right now. Dara says, what positions do we need to fill with Fonseca's style of play, in your opinion? That's a good question, Dara, actually. It's one that I kind of touched on the other day, but I was looking more at the players that we have that could fit into that rather than players that we need to bring in. We need centre-backs. I'd say we need 3 centre-backs. I said Eric Dyer could really fit into that Brian Cristante role of that kind of former holding midfielder, sitting back into that central role in a centre-backs who can be that ball player. He can be that that kind of passing out, the guy who carries it out from the back, which I don't particularly want Eric Dyer to be, but I think if we're going down the cheap route, that's what we could end up doing. We need at least 2 other centre-backs, 2 other ball-playing centre-backs, because that's how Fonseca plays, and Alderweireld I think is just a bit past it in terms of his pace and things like that. If he is going to be a ball-playing centre-back and he's carrying the ball out of the back, and then he's, I don't know, maybe dispossessed or something like that, does he have the recovery pace to really fix that? I'm not quite sure he does. So Joachim Andersen will be one player that I'd definitely bring in, and another centre back. If it is going to be one from Roma, I think that could be a good route to go, like I said, with Gianluca Mancini, or a player that I wanted to bring in from Inter Milan when Conte was the option in Alessandro Bastoni. I don't think that's going to be very likely right now, but I'd like to see it happen. And we'll just go back to the tactics board to kind of answer this question. So those 2 centre backs, I'll see if I can find. So this one, in terms of that central centre back, who is Brian Cristante, Eric Dyer could fit in there, the one who can either ping those passes out from the back or kind of move up into midfield and play the ball out from there. Eric Dyer could fit into that role, but I'd rather he didn't. Maybe that could be where Joachim Andersen plays. Get 2 centre backs out here with a bit more pace, who can kind of help out a bit more when we're trying to build it up from the back, like we said, with that kind of back 3 becoming a back 4 with the keeper and building it up from there. Richard Colson Baker says, do you think Dele would fit Fonseca's system? And that Jordan Vertu role here is this left sided midfielder where he makes those late runs into the box. Had his highest goal scoring season with Roma last year. I was looking at an Ndombele, a Gio Lo Celso potentially being that man, and Dele Alli didn't even come into my mind, Richard. So it's thank you very much for reminding me of that, because it's probably something I should start mentioning. Dele in that left sided midfield role could be that man who to make those late runs into the box. Now, on the flip side, building from the back a lot of the time, it would be him, the left sided midfielder, kind of coming back into this position and trying to build up from there. So maybe Dele wouldn't fit that side of things, but if we're looking at being that late runner into the box, Dele could definitely suit that left centre midfielder role. Other places we'd have to build, like I said, in left back, I think we're good. Maybe bringing Spinazzola in wouldn't be a bad thing, but Reguilon there already, I think, works absolutely perfectly. On the right hand side, if we're going to be letting Serge Aurier go, we at least need cover for Matt Doherty. Doherty could thrive in this role. It's where he did very well with Wolves. I don't know if confidence is going to be too much of an issue right now in trying to get back into this team. I would be excited to see how he fares, and again, as an Irish fan, I'd love to see him working there, but I'm just not sure it's going to happen. One position that we will need to improve is right wing. Gareth Bale, if he's going to be the option we bring in, perfect. Suits this role down to the ground. I don't think he will. I think he will be at Real Madrid next season with Carlo Ancelotti. But this kind of inside right forward position, Lamela, not good enough. Lucas does better in the number 10, but we don't really have a number 10 in here. Lorenzo Pellegrini maybe could play here if we are going to bring him in from Roma, making those late runs in behind the striker. It's usually Edin Dzeko flicking it on. I think Harry Kane could do a good job at that, as he has done this season, kind of dropping deep and pinging balls from there. And yeah, I'd like to see a right winger as well. It's not one of the priorities. I think two centre backs should be our absolute priorities, which I think it has been for a while and just hasn't really been addressed, which is certainly very concerning. But we need a lot more players than we care to admit. I do think. Wayne Bonner with the £2 says, I promote Lavinier to the first team as right back cover. And he's one who's getting a lot of praise. I know he's in some of our Europa League squads towards the end of last season. I'm not sure. I personally don't know too much about him and his development to say if he is ready for that step up, but maybe he could be our starting right back in the Europa Conference League. Wayne, it's a good point. There are some players down there that we could push up, especially him in Lavinier. I'd be excited to see how Fonseca really works with youth. Does he want to bring these players into the first team? Is that going to be one of his priorities? And again, how will he approach the Europa Conference League? But look, everyone, thank you very much for tuning in. We've had nearly 3,000 people over the last half an hour we've been going live. We're on 149 likes. Let's get that to 200 with 470 people watching. I'm sure 51 of you haven't yet hit that like button. It really helps me. It goes into the YouTube algorithm. It pushes this video out to more and more people. So it's absolutely free to you. Just one click of a button. And I very, very much appreciate that. And while you're down there, hit that subscribe button for more updates on Tottenham's pursuit of a manager as we come to within days of Paulo Fonseca's appointment. And also the Tottenham Hotspur Transfer Talk series coming up in full flow this summer, where you'll be kept up to date on all things Tottenham transfers, both incomings and outgoings. Thank you very much to everyone who's tuned in. Wayne, I think thank you very much for that last super chat as well. Thank you to everyone for the super chats. Thank you to Steve and to Brian and David for the modding, to Cody for tuning in, and all the usuals as well. With Jack Nicky in here as well. Sorry, Jack. Just saying, too dangerous to put Dele in the central midfield. Dispossessed 2.5 times per 90, and there's Jack with the stats. Jack, thanks very much for that, and thank you for tuning in as well. But look, as always, thanks for watching.